So after you've restored your soil from fire and you're ready to begin replanting, where do you start rebuilding your garden? Whether it's just a section of your garden or it's the whole garden, my advice would be to plan big but start small. Do small achievable things that you can have a win on and then get excited and move on to bigger and better things. The most important thing to start with is to make a list of what you want from your garden. Are you wanting an entertaining area? Do you want to have a veggie patch or a herb garden? An orchard? Do you want to have chooks and ducks? Do you want to have habitat for wildlife? Do you want a play space for your kids or your pets? So think through all the things you want and write them down, and then work out where the best place to position them is. The other thing you need to do is be real about where your garden is. Be real about the climate. Our climate is one of extremes. We can be really hot and dry in summer, and we can be really cold and frosty in winter. So work out whether your garden is really exposed or whether it's sheltered. All these things make a difference to not only how you plan your garden, but also when you get ready to replant. Certain plants are better planted at certain times of the year. We're coming into winter, and this is a time of bare-rooted plants. So this is the perfect time to be replanting fruit trees that are deciduous, ornamental trees that are deciduous, roses and vines. It's the best time in that they're most affordable, and they'll also grow the best when you get them established. If you're looking to replant citrus or say passion fruit, which are subtropical plants, don't plant them in winter because they'll sulk in cold soil and they'll take years to recover, or they might even die. These plants are far better planted into warm soil, which is in late spring, so November up here in the hills. The other thing to think about is the microclimate around your garden. So the microclimate is something that we can change by smart planning. So it might be that you're really windy around your property and you need to put in some windbreaks or shelter belts. It might be that your house is really exposed and hot and sunny. I'm a huge fan of deciduous plants to create shade because they let the precious winter sunshine in, but they keep us cool and shady in summer. And you can add them either by putting in trees or by putting in a pergola, which is covered in deciduous vines. The other thing to consider is when you have large areas of hot reflective surfaces, such as exposed walls or large areas of paving or paths, what can you do to shade those areas and take off the radiant heat? So the microclimate is something you can plan to change, and it's not that hard to do. Another thing that can influence the microclimate is a lawn. Now, I'm a big fan of limited areas of lawn to reduce the heat. And actually, if we look around the fire-affected regions, you'll notice that many of the houses that survived had a strip of lawn around them which acted as a buffer to keep them cool and safe from fire. When you're planning your garden, I would also suggest you think about the resources you have. Do you have water, or are you purely reliant on rainwater? Because obviously, if you're only on rainwater, you need to be much more frugal and think carefully about what you plant. However, if you have access to water, whether it's through mains water or through a bore, I would suggest that you actually create your garden with watering zones and simply design those zones close to the house to make sense. So the high water zone, which would be things that need frequent watering, like your veggies, they might need to get watered as often as once a day. Put them close to a house so we're keeping that moisture and the coolness close to your house. The moderate water zone, it might get watered once a week, and that would include many ornamentals around your garden, fruit trees, and even roses. And then finally, the low water zone, where either you don't water at all once established or you water very infrequently. That could be your climate compatible exotics and all your native plants. We need to have natives for habitat and for biodiversity. But if you're not going to water them, possibly keep those no water zones away from your house and put the zones where you're applying water closer to your house. It creates a cool buffer and it can help to give you protection from fire. Plant selection is also really important. Basically, try to keep plants that have highly flammable foliage, such as gums or conifers, away from your house, and put plants that don't have flammable foliage closer to your house. So for example, deciduous trees can act as a great buffer zone. They can help to soften an ember attack and give you some protection. The other thing to look at is the habits of plants. Plants that have dry, flaky or stringy bark are very flammable. And also plants that retain dead foliage are no good close to your house. So by thinking through your plant selections, you can actually make not only wiser choices, but you can help to create a buffer zone around your house. Losing a garden or part of a garden to fire is devastating. But if you're rebuilding and replanting, take the time to think things through, and you can have a beautiful garden that will sustain you and give you joy and give you a sanctuary in these fast-paced, crazy times. Happy gardening. Don't forget that more grows in a garden than a gardener sows.